Assalamualaikum, good afternoon and Selamat Hari Raya everyone. Welcome to Razak School of Government 6th webinar in 2021, our 19th installment in total. Today's webinar is called We Care a Lot. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and the structure of our webinar session today. To those who follow this webinar through Zoom, please mute your microphones. We are also broadcasting this webinar live on our Facebook. This webinar session is divided into 3 segments. First, we will begin with key questions posed to our guest speaker. Then, we will answer questions from participants. At any time during the webinar, you may submit your questions to the guest speaker. Just type your questions in the chat and comment section. Please keep your question short and straightforward. As time allows, we will address as many questions as possible. Lastly, we will then wrap up today's webinar session. This webinar is recorded and you will be able to access this recording via our Facebook and YouTube page. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our guest speaker today, Dato Sri Technologist Mohammad Hamdan Haji Wahid is presently the Director General of the Fire and Rescue Department of Malaysia. He was appointed to the position on 8th of June 2018. Dato Sri joined the department more than 30 years ago. He has held various executive and strategic posts in states and divisions, with vast experience in fire safety, firefighting and search and rescue, operational commandership and disaster management. He was the Assistant Director General of Planning, Research and Development, and the Director of Fire and Rescue Department for the Federal Territory. Among the highlights of Dato Sri's career was leading the rescue mission of 1,200 officers from Malaysia to Sumatra in 2007. Dato Sri is also the Malaysia's branch president of the Institution of Fire Engineers, founded in 1818, which assesses the knowledge of fire and professional experience, awarding internationally recognized membership grades and fire-related qualification. He is also the past president of Institution of Master of Disaster and Emergency Management of Malaysia, and has contributed significantly to developing code of practices and fire safety regulation at national and regional level. Dato Sri holds a degree in mathematics from University Malaya and a Master of Science degree in Emergency Response Planning and Management from University Putra Malaysia. Dato Sri is also an alumni of Razak School of Government. Dato Sri Hamdan, thank you for accepting our invitation today. Allow us to get started with the first question. The first question is, what motivates Bomba to care a lot? Dipersilakan Dato Sri.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon to Johari as the moderator of today's webinar RSOG. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my appreciations and also gratitude to RSOG Secretariat webinar and also RSOG for the invitations as one of the speakers in this RSOG webinar 6 2021. I think it's my pleasure and also is a privilege to be part and partial of your program here. So before I pursue and respond to the questions that have been highlighted, I just would like to highlight a bit of information on the quick facts and also quick wins on the fire and rescue departments of Malaysia. maybe for the purpose of our friends who actually don't really know about the status and also about the background of Fire and Rescue Department is a very brief, Johari. Actually, Fire and Rescue Department is a very small organization under Ministry of Housing and Local Government of Malaysia. We have a population of about 15,000 personnel, whereby 13,500 of them are uniform and 1,500 are non-uniforms administrators that's coming from the cadre posts of JKR, from Mampu, from chemistry departments, and also from public service departments of grade M and N. But anyway, they are parts and parcel of our big family. And we are operating on our functioning on the 4 levels of administrations. That is a HQ in Putrajaya, and we have the state level, 16 state levels fire and rescue administrations, 48 zones of operations, and we have 322 fire stations operating all over the nations. At the same time, we do have our own 9 forensic fire forensic laboratories across the nations, depend on which zone you are. We have 2 in East Malaysia and 7 in West Malaysia. We also have our own A-Wing operating base. We have 3 A-Wing operating base in Malaysia. One is actually in Subang, and the other one is in Bertam, and the other one is in East Malaysia. We also have 16 mechanicals, engineering centers, and 5 fire and rescue academies, and 1 research center. So that is where we are operating, and that is where most of our personnel are based on. Coming back to your questions, what motivates Bomba to care a lot? Actually, this is a very tricky question given by Johari, the moderator. Thank you for the questions. I believe it's a very hard question, but I try to respond it in a simple way. I believe there are several factors that makes why Bomba care a lot for the community. The first thing is actually the nature of the job, and also the corporate cultures of the team and organizations. We are actually responsible in dealing with saving and protecting life of the community. It's not only the human life, but also the public assets, including the shelters. We are also responsible to ensure that the business continuity is there, and also the livelihood of the people. So I can sum it up. The most important things is that because of the nature of the job, we are emphasizing into protecting lives and also livelihood. We responded to about 120,000 emergency calls per year, which involve all sorts of casualties, which we encounter all sorts of tasks, and also managing all kinds of incidents and calamities, where we experience, at least per day, we experienced and responded to about 330 cases, whereby it's a matter of life and death experience, whereby we have to strengthen our belief that and our perception and spirit on the importance of protecting human lives. So because of this, each and every individuals of the teams or the organization have been instilled a strong human values to value the well-being and also the safety of the people, to care and to love and to give them comfort in time of disaster or incidents. So actually this creates a basic principles in the human values. That is the willingness to sacrifice our own life for the sake of the stranger's life. So actually this is a basic principle that held by every firefighters and rescuers across the nations. And these are very noble intentions, very noble actions. So this kind of characteristic of love and care were instilled and also inculcated and embraced by each every rescuer from the beginning of their service until the end of their service, or until the end of their career, or what we can say until they hang their boots. So every level, from the level of management until the levels of the implementer or the rescuer, this kind of spirit and values are the one that already been inculcated into the service. The second factors most probably I look at is actually the objective and the outcome of our core business, because in upholding the guiding principles as a rescuer, the firefighters and also rescuer have to be responsible on the safety and the well-being of the public as a whole. So without thinking their background, without thinking about their races, religion, and so on, the morals and the legal obligations of all rescuers and firefighters are there during peacetime, also during crisis. So publics and also stakeholders' expectations on the outcome and the impact of our service delivery is very obvious, because they want to ensure that the key performance indicators and the efficiencies depend very much on every rescuers or every teams that responded. So the critical elements of the nation building and the quality of public life is one of the things that we always look into. So this makes the personnel and the forces embrace that kind of care and love. One also good things that we have in our department is about the strong mottos and the code of conduct and the core values. Because if you look at the back of my background now, you see the motto fast and friendly. The friendly is the key words, even though we are very responsive and very effective, but the most important thing is the human touch is always be there when we provide our service delivery. And these are actually the code of conduct as a regulatory guideline. And of course, the service ethics and also core values are some of the guiding parameters the personnel have to embrace, not only during emergencies, but also non-emergency tasking. It started from the moment the personnel step into the department as a recruits. When they go for basic training, these are the elements that we actually injected to each and every recruits to ensure that before they are certified as professional firefighters, the core values of love and care is always be there. So like I mentioned just now, even we are responsive and effective, and also with a strong sense of urgency in any kind of incidents, but the basic ethic of our personnel in terms of the human touch is always one of the priorities. So this human touch, humilities, and also accommodative for the community in time of the community facing distress, also during the predicaments, are the things that need to be understood by each and every teams and individuals, firefighters. The helping hand to manage and mitigate the issue and problem must be there. Working as a team, not only within the organizations, but also with other organizations. If you look at what happened when there was this incident of train collisions 2 days ago, these are the spirit that we have in each and every firefighters. And of course, what motivates the department to care is also the commitments of the management on the welfare and the safety and the health of the rescuer. So when the rescuer feel that they are well looked after, I believe they always deliver the best. We look at the aspect of welfare. We look at the aspect of health. and safety. We look at the working environments of all the firefighters, beside the spiritual, mental, and physical progress and status of the personnel. So even in the department, we have a special unit, we call it Welfare and Religious Corps, to look after them. And very recently, we even have been given privilege by TAPAN or TPPN as part of the Tabung Perwira to look after the welfare of the firefighters. Because the firefighters need a very strong attention, commitments, and also care from the departments. The working schedule, the PPEs, the equipments, the hand tools, the workstations are some of the examples that we always be concerned with to ensure that they were actually in the good conditions, and also the management always at higher to improve all these conditions collectively and continuously. And of course, we always listen to what the despair and also complaints and also some of the opinions and also the pointers from the lower rank, especially those who are the rescuer and the implementers at the ground there. So the commitment of the department concerning the well-being of the staff is very critical. Even if our staff happen to be victims of flood disaster, for instance, we always have our Bomba welfare revolving fund to compensate whatever the loss that they have, even if they are injured and also there are casualties during operation and so on. These are elements, I believe, an initiative for ex gratia and welfare benefits that the rescuer feel that they are well looked after, and this will motivate them. And another factor is also appreciation and recognitions. Appreciation and recognitions, not only the official duty and commitment of the firefighters and rescuers, but also the talent and potentiality of the individuals. For instance, in the field of sport, in the field of social, recreational, professional, technology, religious affair, education, and so on. They will be given a high degree of official recognitions and also appreciations, and include those who are very active in creativity and also innovation movements. So we provide them with all sorts of awards and also recognitions, like Public Service Excellence Awards. The department created also Orders, Medal, and Decoration Awards of Honor for those who have contributed significantly to the departments and also to the nations. And those who have a certain standard of achievement, they will be given a special state awards and also federal awards. So these professional recognitions and also the official recognition and certification is also one of the factors why they are highly motivated. And of course, training and skill enhancement program is also one of the factors to ensure that they will progress and manage to cope with the new challenges and present scenarios. And if the personals are also part of those who are having a good career and records and performance, they are also considered to be developed in terms of career developments. So these are being done systematically, comprehensively. And of course, training enhancement program is always be there. In all training program, assessment are being made or carried out, not only on the physical knowledge, skill, and competency, but also the level of spiritual discipline and also human factors are also evaluated. So training ground is always be the best place for us to assess the capabilities and the state of our firemanhood. So that is why one of the criteria that we look into is better to sweat at the training ground and also rather bleeding at the fire ground. So we always better to sweat on training ground rather than we bleed at the fire ground. So this is part of the values that we injected into them. Like I said just now, career development and promotional program is always be there. The career path of the personnel is clearly stated. And this is also as testaments in the service scheme. So every personnel acknowledge and recognize this transparently, and the exercise for promotions and career development are always aggressively conducted all year through. And this gives the personnel a certain hope to progress forward in their career. Of course, initiative to improve themselves goes back to them, and also their mindset need to change, and also their attitude. So we want them to compete healthily, motivates them to do better, to show the best outcome of the service they can provide. So through this good practice and the best service delivery, we believe that we have a very good team to ensure that they always love the people, to care for the people, and always try to be accommodative and comfort them in time of disaster incidents, and also any kind of mishap or calamities. So Joyce, that was the first question that you have been asking, and I responded it in that way.
Thank you very much, Dato Sri.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for a very fast and friendly response to the first question.
Yeah.
Dato Sri, if we gather your sharing correctly, yes, there's a lot of things that Jabatan Bomba care. Not only the people who most of the time you didn't know when you rescue them or you help them, but it's also the people inside the department itself, because they are the one that drive whatever objective or whatever targets that the department has in mind. And unlike the popular perception, what Jabatan Bomba care is more than life. It's the continuity of life, business continuity, the well-being of the society, and so on. So I suppose we get it right on the first one, that there's a lot of things that being cared by Jabatan Bomba. And it is driven by a few factors: the nature of work, the objective and outcome of the department, and the commitment of the senior management itself. Dato Sri, izinkan saya pergi ke soalan yang kedua, to move to the second question. Why is it important to care for one another, Dato Sri?
That is a very good question, Johari. Why it is important to care for one another? If we look at the research has shown that 8 out of 10 person, when they try to help others, they always be a feeling of positive experience. So that is the outcome of a research being done by a very credible research center, and this is world research. When they take care of somebody, they always have that feeling of positive experience in them. That is feeling good. It's very important in lives and also livelihood. When you care for a person, you have that feeling of desire being needed. When you care for someone, you have that feeling, the purpose in life. That is very important. And you feel giving a greater meaning to others. So a feeling, a sense of accomplishment of this is very rewarding, and also a satisfaction. This will bring joy to one's life, which is very important positive injection to a certain people, especially the victim in distress. We handle about 320 distress calls every day, about 120,000 of emergency calls per year. And almost every call, people are under distress. People need help. People need to be rescued. And when a rescuer successfully done their job, especially the firefighters, and the victim appreciated it, this will create a very strong relationship and bond with the community. And this actually promote trust. The most important things when you are in a community or in society, trust is a very critical perception. If the community don't have that kind of trust in your service, I believe something needs to be done. So saving life is one thing. However, establishing trust is very important. Building the bonds, like I mentioned just now, building the bonds with the community is the critical in livelihood for the firefighters. We always been believed as a savior of the community. So I always emphasize on our men and women of the uniform service that when you have the trust from the community, whatever is a small mishap or mistake that you do, and somebody try to make big of it and try to propagate something which is negative of it, but if the community trusts you so much, the community will depend you. They will say that, no, this might most probably one of the isolated case. Because they believe in the service delivery that you provide, which is highly quality, where you always be very effective, you very transparent, and so on. So these are very critical in any other government and also public service, because the most important thing is the trust from the community. If they don't have that trust, I believe you will still considered as dishonest, or they don't believe in your service delivery. And second thing is that why it is important to care for one another, especially in our line of duties, because we want to create safe and conducive environment. When everyone take care of one another, they are actually building a strong and responsible community. They are the immediate responders to any kind of happening in that community, because Bomba cannot be there like a Superman. The moment you call, the Bomba will always be there. If you have a community which are very strong, very responsible, and very resilient, we believe it will help us, because they are the immediate responders in any kind of happening in that community or in that neighborhood. So be it involve security factors or be it involve safety factors. So if it is due to a strong cohesive manner of the society, the intention to help, the intention to care, intention to assist, to accommodate the closest companions, I believe we will live a very peaceful and safe community. Even before the arrival of the official emergency agencies, for instance, people around will create a sense of responsibility to take care of others. I believe it will prevent damage or loss even bigger. And at this stage, mitigations can be done at the earlier stage because of the caring neighborhood. So a safe environment and also conducive environment is very critical for a good quality of life. Even if you look at Bhutan, one of the countries that have the highest happiness index, they care for each other. It's not only among the community, even the king himself willing to go down to show how strong and how compassionate is him. So these are the things that we are trying to emphasize on the community. That is community empowerment. That is why we form a lot of community fire brigades, for instance, community fire squad, volunteers. We create auxiliary fire officers, community emergency response team. And we even conducted quite a number of outreach programs for interior communities. And even we work together with GLC to have a summer camp where we gather all the members of the communities, especially the head of communities, to ensure that these are the do's and don'ts to look after the fire safety of the premises and so on and so forth. Another third important thing is why it's important to care for one another, Joe, is actually to build a caring society. I think previous years, campaign in Malaysia on caring societies was very active. Actually, the campaign in Malaysia previously on caring societies, all people with equal dignity and respect, looking after each other to ensure that everyone's have access to the basic needs, goods and services, and even during a time of emergencies or some calamities. So there is an organizations and there is a ministry that looking after this caring society policy previously. Living in a safe and conducive environment, we're willing to provide support and helping hands for others, regardless of their status and background. I think these policies, strategies, initiative, program, and plan of action must be in place because practically, if it's being implemented, I believe there will be a movement in the society itself to ensure that this type of culture will be built in our society, especially in a challenging time like now. If we look at what happened during pandemics, we are not very selfish, Leslie, considering ourselves alone. People around us are actually being cared for. And if we look at some of the big corporate, they even do a lot of CSR for those who are B40, both B50 belows, those who have been affected badly, adversely because of the pandemics. And also there are times they have given food to the community in needs. I think we have that kind of elements and we have that kind of attitude in the society. The only thing is that putting that in place to ensure that the policies, strategies, initiative, program, and plan of action must be in place so practically can be implemented and practiced. So as a fire service, this campaign or initiative is very important and very critical, not only during peacetime, but also during crisis. If we have this in place and very strong among the community relationship and bonds, actually as a pandemic we are experiencing now, I think we can minimize the difficulties and the hardship being faced by a lot of people, and we can build what we said as a safe and conducive environment. Even the caring society is also being shown by GLC and big corporate. Private sectors, they have a lot of campaign on service with care, for instance, service with courtesy. They even have a smile campaign, service with smiles, so a help center or care center. And even they considered we are as a friend, we are not considered as a client. So these courtesy ambassadors and also customers days are good examples of how we can create caring society in these countries. And also why it is important to care for one another, because of sense of belonging, and also, like I mentioned just now, resilient community. Is the sustained ability of community to use available resources to respond or to withstand or to recover from adverse situations is good enough in the country now? That is a question we have to answer. So if community are strong, then we are ready to look after each other and we adapt this. And also if there are some pandemics or some kind of calamities that happen, at least we can recover faster. And also the growth of the community we properly manage after the disasters strikes. So community should be resilient also. They're able to minimize any kind of disaster, making it possibly fast for us to return to normalcy. So this is part of the shared responsibility that we should have. And of course, when we care for one another, we can reduce calamities and loss. And also we actually have a strong bond and always looking after each other. And if our neighbor are having difficulties, the other neighbor will help. And these are actually the rules that we have in the society. That is a readiness to respond to any kind of issues, challenges, or even incidents or emergencies where someone around us need to be provided with a basic support in whatever that happened within the communities. So I believe Fire and Rescue Department always initiate this program for all sectors of communities, Joe. And we always looking forward to work hand in hand with any kind of entities. For instance, we have created a program of what we call as BLS, Basic Life Support, especially giving knowledge and training module to the public, how to handle choking, for instance, how to do CPR, for instance, how to do basic triage for victims in accidents and also stop bleeding. These are very basic. So with this knowledge, we believe that if each and every citizen of Malaysia are given this exposure, anything happen within the unit of the family or within the neighborhood, they can respond very fast before the arrival of emergency agencies and also the government agencies. So that is my response to your second question, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dato' Sri. I think similarly with the first question, Dato' Sri offer us a multi-dimensional perspective to the question. It is a combination of internal and external. Internally, if you care for each other, you have that good feeling, you have that positive feeling, you have that sense of rewarding and sense of purpose, which I think many people underlook that part. Dato' Sri, thank you for pointing that. And Dato' Sri also shared with us the external part is that the dependency on the department, on the government as a whole has to lessen from time to time, because we need a resilient society, a society that takes care of each other, which I think very much in line with what we want to achieve under Wawasan Kemakmuran Bersama.
Yeah, that's right.
We get it right from that. Allow us to go to the third question, Dato' Sri. How do we encourage the society to care for one another?
Okay, Joe, that is also a very good question. In a culture like Malaysia, we have a very diverse background. We have different races, we have different religion, we have a different educational background, we have different parts of the country that we're staying. Some of them are staying interior, some are staying in the town, some of them are staying in the cities. I believe encouragement alone is not possible and good enough if we need to have a caring society. What we need to do, the first thing is that we must have a government policies, initiative and programs on this caring society. Like I mentioned just now, government have a ministry responsible for these matters. We should outline the policy, the strategy, the action plan, like I mentioned just now, the program, initiative, and activities, plus the target for caring society. Because government have the capabilities and capacities to interpret this and also to regulate these policies and to drive such kind of movement and framework and also achievement through government machineries and also mechanism. At all level, I believe, from federal level, state level, local authorities, district level, villages, residential and associations, NGOs, and so on and so forth. Why? Because they used to say the Malaysians are very friendly kind of people. What makes them so friendly? Because they always care for each other. But there are times that critical moments, they believe that saving his own, sorry to say, having his own ass is the most important thing. Selfishness is still there. But we are not very individualistic. Previously, when we are living in a kampung area, we always care for our neighbor. Orang cakap kita jaga tepi kain orang. But when we move to town, we stay in terrace kind of dwellings and also residential area, we might not know our neighbor. The most important thing is that we used to say, even in our teaching, we say that those who are closest to us, the family unit and the neighbors are the thing that at first you have to get to know with. Actually, this culture had been built and had been practiced in kampung and also in whatever villages that you originated from. But when you go pursuing your educations, when you go to tertiary levels of education, you begin to be more individualistic, you know. Even if you are actually working in the cities, you start to tend to care for yourself rather than looking at who actually your neighbor and what they are doing, whether they are friendly enough and so on and so forth. So in Malaysia, we already have a very basic good foundations and fundamentals. We should build this and we should spread and propagate this kind of good culture, that caring for our neighbors, get to know our neighbors, what they are doing, and always taking into account how to accommodate and help them in time of their needs. So encouragement alone, I don't really believe, because we are not to the standard that whereby through self-regulatory they always be able to practice this kind of culture. So the government, through their policies, initiative, and programs, still very critical. Second thing, also participations of all sectors, including public, private, professional, and NGOs, like I mentioned just now, because government needs support system from all sectors for whatever the government policies and initiative, because these are very critical as they are part of point of contact for the society. So we enhance the society focal point and also the touch point through this support system. The third thing is that how we can propagate this society to care for one another is also educational measures. If we create awareness and we inculcate a good values that start from the root of the society for short-term and long-term, especially in schools, in educational institutions, I think we can implant all these elements and culture, beginning at the root of the societies, that is children's. Because from what I have seen, for instance, there are some campaign like Stop Smoking campaign. When it started from school, it's quite effective now, especially a lot of parents listening to what the kids were telling them. Hey, Dad, in school, the teacher said that smoke causes cancer. You should stop smoking, you know. Then through that, I believe preschool, school, and educational institution are the best avenue for us to instill this kind of element and culture. And the fourth one is how is initiate and amplified our outreach campaign and promotions, especially the public awareness program, that is through our town hall, through talks, through our seminar, dialogues, and also we provide them the avenue for nurturing the caring culture in both all levels of communities and sectors. And also we create community care centers in kampung areas, in residential areas, in town and cities. So I believe with this, most probably we will provide the infra and also the platform for the communities to get together and so on. Of course, another factor is also collaboration and engagements among the related parties, with the communities, with the private government, NGOs, and public sectors. We go beyond the barrier of race, religion, and so on. And we tear down the political, the racial, and xenophobia barriers, because these are the things that actually will cause segmentations and polarization in the community. We need to tear down the political, racial, and xenophobia barriers. Another thing is also combat misinformations, fake news, hatred informations. This will kill the hatred elements among the societies, because a sense of truthfulness and responsibilities among all communities, regardless of their race and religion and so on, is very important. Because if we don't combat misinformation, we don't combat the fake news, we don't combat the hatred information, I believe polarizations among society still happen. And of course, we need to strengthen residential and neighborhood movements and bond, and also create the best models and appreciate the outstanding practices which are actually practiced by the society. And maybe we can create national awards and recognition for those who have practiced the best care and also love among the societies. I think these are among the factors that I can foresee, Joe, that we can actually encourage the society to care for one another. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Dato Sri. Dato Sri, in short, I think what we gather is that it takes many things to tango. The government must continue to drive with the right policy, the right programs to make people care with each other. At the same time, a greater involvement from the society is required. Then we can look forward to a more cohesive society that put aside the hatred, put aside the segmentation. We require a huge change of mindset here, Dato Sri. Dato Sri, we have received a question from the participant. If I can go straight to the first question, Dato Sri, from Cik Mohammad Zarawi Abdullah. Malaysia Fire Rescue Department has a long history. How does Dato Sri see the changes and progress along those 138 years, especially in terms of career path or professionalism?
Thank you, Zawi. That is a very strong question that I need to reply and respond. I believe some of those who are attending to this webinar also come from Fire and Rescue Department. I make sure that my response is right. If not, I will be corrected by them. Okay, actually we have a very long history. Why we are actually under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government? Because we have a very long history with housing and local government. There was some question being asked by public why we were not under the internal affair, the ministry. Because the establishments of fire brigade was derived from the local authority and municipality. It was a long history. And even 1893, not mistaken, we have a volunteers fire brigade. That is why we have Jalan Bellamy. It was stated by B.S. Bellamy. Jalan Bellamy and Jalan Hos. If you look at the area close to the old Istana Negara, you have Jalan Hos and Jalan Bellamy. Because hose is actually delivery hose for firefighting. They put the Jalan Hos. So that is why we have history in 1893, long time ago. But of course, we have gone through all sorts of evolution. Even we were under sanitary board at one particular time. Some of the fire brigade in the local authority was under the police management. Polis Diraja Malaysia, Pentadbiran Polis Diraja Malaysia. Some of them they were under PBT directly and public health and so on. However, in 1960s and 70s, there was some commission being done by the government to look into this service. So that creates some clauses in our federal constitutions, and where we are under concurrent list and also under the federal list. Okay, coming back to the evolutions. In late 1980s, actually, a process of reformations and transformation of service took over. Why? This was mainly due to several factors and reasons. When the new breed of generation entered the service, when we say new breed of generation, are those who came from graduates enter the service. The drive for re-engineering, the drive for restructuring, the drive for realignment, benchmarking of the best practice was so immense during that time. Why? Because this service actually progressed according to the risk index. The country undergo all sorts of changes. The policy, the strategy, the approaches and targets of the core business was analyzed during that time, undergoing industrial scanning and change due to prevailing challenges like I mentioned just now. The challenges, the new challenges and issue have driven the organization to change. The government policy, the public service policy, economic growth and physical development of the country, the urbanization factors, the risk index, the complexity of natural and industrial disasters, the public expectations, the stakeholders' aspirations, the need for quality of service delivery, and so on and so forth were the driving factors that greatly affecting these changes. So one of our main concern and focus during that transformations was human resource. All things we can actually transform because of a good budget and response by the government. In the 8 Malaysian plan, we managed to transform the department. After we came back from the big cross-border firefighting, forest firefighting in Indonesia, recognition from the parliaments, and also the importance of this service because of the turnaround in the public sectors. We have done quite numbers of transformations, modernizations of the service, change of the name from fire service department to fire and rescue departments, whereby our core business focusing more on the humanitarians and rescue services rather than firefighting. So this element actually have transformers and changes. Of course, changing and replacing material, equipment, and others are quantifiable and also manageable. However, changing the human behavior and mindset was a big challenge. So from them, we engage a lot of institutions and organizations who are actually champion, or we say the gurus in transforming the threat, the behavior, the mindset, the corporate culture, and the ethic to assist us in transforming the human resource. So it took some time actually. And some are the success stories, some are failure, of course. However, it differs from one unit or one department or one organization to the other. And within our force, like I mentioned, there are some success stories, there are some failure. And of course, until now, I'm very grateful and very thankful to say that the spirit is very high for us to continue and to pursue with its modernizations, especially in terms of the human capital. We have quite a number of those who are already taking academic programs. We have quite a number of PhD holders in the department. We have quite a big number of those who have graduated to the level of master degrees, and of course bachelor degrees. And we always encourage them to continue and pursue educational academic program in open system like PJJ and so on and so forth. About 500 of our personnel are undergoing academic program now, be it intensively and also partially. So these are the new brains that are coming into the department. And of course, it is very demanding now for us to ensure that these people can contribute to the progress of the departments. I believe with this kind of present and progressive scenarios, the fire rescue department is going to expand, and of course is going to extend the service throughout the country. Why? Because the country needs this kind of humanitarian services, whereby is very, very critical for the well-being and the safety of the people. So I hope I can answer the questions that have been given by Mr. Zahawi.
Dato Sri, we can sense the huge challenge that you are facing, because the department is really particular about the professionalism of the staff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the external environment changes sometimes faster than what that can be coped. I guess if I can relate to the next question, which we pick up from the Facebook, from Encik Umar, he is asking Dato Sri, how has technology helped Bomba, Dato Sri?
Oh, very much, Joe. I think very good questions. In the 11 Malaysian plan, we already started modernizing the fire service. With the IoTs, with the fourth industrial revolutions, connectivity, Internet of Things, this will help a lot, especially for the fire safety of the buildings. Because building now coming to smart buildings, intelligent buildings, we have to cope with it. And we are actually monitoring the system of the designated building through Internet of Things too, by weight base and so on. We are also in the process of putting up a big plan for C4I, for command and control computer intelligence system. We are also trying to monitor hotspots throughout the country by means of connectivities and also by use of Internet of Things. So these are the new things that most probably will help the department, not only in terms of operations, but also in terms of preventing disaster to happen. Through fourth industrial revolutions, we're looking at the importance of AI. Singapore have undergone a very drastic change in terms of using AI in their public fire service, especially robotic firefighting, especially monitoring and also command and controlling building of high hazard and high risk. They are also putting up exoskeleton for responding for firefighters, which look very much like Hollywood movie, especially. And is very impressed to see what they have done through the research and development. That is why our research and development center in NSTEC is very critical. They're always working together with all departments to ensure that modernization through technology can happen, and not only happen in the department just as what we are having now, but we try to make it happen in the faster pace, because technology will be obsolete for the next day if we don't really catch up with it. So all these modernizations, all this digitalizing of the service, and also by using connectivity, by AI, IoT, and so on, is very much help the department to respond faster, to be able to do the task effectively, And also at the same time, we can actually report and record whatever that happened by means of real time and so on. So this is very critical in terms of modernizing the department, and it helps us. That is why our JPICT, Jatuan Kuasa Pengurusan ICT, is part of the very important forum in the department. At the same time, we also have our steering committee in modernizing the fire and rescue services, because we cannot be so conventional, and that might most probably will slow down our pace in modernizing the departments. So I hope I can answer the question to Mr. Omar. Thank you.
Sri, we have come to the end of the session. Would you like to offer parting words to our participants, Sri?
And one important thing is that now we are emphasizing on community empowerment.
Right.
The existence of the organization is because of the community needs. If not because of their need, I don't think the fire and rescue department is there. So community means all sorts of sectors. It's not only a common public, but also those who are playing in the industry, the players in the industry, those who are players in the administrations, public service, and so on. There are our communities that we need them to work hand in hand with us. Fire and Rescue Department used to be a very reactive organization. We only respond to fire. After put off the fire, we go back, we close our door, we wait for another call. That was what happened in the early 60s, 70s. Even in the movie of Charlie Chaplin, you can see. So they rush to the fire scene, and after that they go back and they close the door, you know. But that already been transformed in 1980s, 70s, 80s, and even now we go beyond that. We don't wait for the fire to happen. We go outside and search for the fire risk that most probably will cause the fire to happen. The same thing also go to other kind of calamities. Before people die because of drowning, we go to the hot spot where the area are very prone that drowning to happen. So we prevent them to happen. Prevention is the most important thing. And the first response during preliminary stage is very important. So that is why the role of the community is critical. So we need to emphasize and to work together with the community, not only in terms of fire, but also in terms of other incidents, emergency incidents. Now, if we look at the numbers of death because of drowning is higher than the death because of fire. Each year, we have around 120 to 150 numbers of people die in burnt building. But now we look at death because of drowning due to the activities, recreationals, and so on and so forth, in the water bodies. We have received about, or we responded to about 300 to 500 deaths per year annually because of drowning. So it shows that it multiplied by 3 to the death of burnt buildings. So these are the serious things. Another thing is also road traffic accident. Of course, we have a different statistic with MIROS. We have different statistic with JPJ, police, and also medical department and so on. But average that we responded about 1,700 death because of accident annually when we respond. Some are being saved, some unluckily and very unfortunate. So these are the things that happen. And also industrial and also commercial accident and incidents. So we need all sectors of community to work hand in hand to make your environment safe, and of course to make sure that it helps, like we have been discussing today, to care and to love and to help and to save and to accommodate and to comfort those who are around us in time of calamities or disasters, which we always pray not to happen in Malaysia. Thank God we don't have a big high-rise building fire like some of other developed countries. This is because of the law is very strong. The enforcement is very strong and the preventions is very, very much in place. So this is my last word. We hope that we live and stay in the safe community, not because of Bomba is around, but because of the resilient communities. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, RSOG, and also the audience for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dato Sri Mohammad Hamdan, for spending time with us today. Dato Sri, on behalf of RSOG, kami di RSOG mendoakan Dato Sri diberikan kesihatan dan rakan-rakan di Jabatan Bomba dilindungi kesihatannya dan dipermudahkan segala urusan.
Terima kasih. Amin. Begitu juga dengan RSOG, stay safe, keep fit.
InsyaAllah. I think we as a society is undergoing a very challenging time. And as Dato Sri consistently highlighted from the very beginning, we need a greater involvement of all to pass through this challenging period.
Satu nak tambah sikit pada Bang Jo. Actually, our sanitation program continue until now. We have undergo about 23,000 operation now for sanitation, public sanitation. And this coming Saturday and Sunday, it will be a very big operation throughout the country to clean areas affected in red zone by Bomba and also local authority. So tak boleh pergi tempat itu, tetapi boleh tengoklah melalui media-media kita untuk kita blastkan. Okay, thank you, Joe. Thank you, RSOG. I hope you stay safe and always be fit.
InsyaAllah. To all our participants, we value your views and feedback. We apologize for any shortcoming. There are few questions that we are unable to take. Please follow us on social media for future session. Till we meet again, please take care, stay safe, and thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih banyak, Dato Sri.
Sama-sama.